And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 800-699-9043.
He's the anti-woke warrior of the Northwest suburbs. Always looking to the left to expose Democrat hypocrisy. On a crusade to turn the Northwest suburbs red again. He's the Northwest suburbs' old Jeff Michaels. And this is the Jeff Michaels Show on 1410 WRMN.
Welcome in. This is the Jeff Michaels Show on 1410 WRMN. The news talk of Lake County. Or is it actually the talk of Lake County? Oh, yeah, threw an extra word in there, I guess. How you doing? It is Jeff Michaels for another 1 hour extravaganza on a Saturday afternoon. Let me first of all welcome you to the last day of daylight savings time. In case you forgot, tonight is fall back, spring forward. This is fall, so we go forward. I'm sorry, fall back, spring forward. I got it wrong already. Fall back, spring forward. So this is that one night a year that you get the one extra night of sleep, so you can stay up later and still sleep, and then take a day or so to get all reoriented. And then tomorrow it'll be dark again by 4:30 or whatever it is, or it'll seem like it. Anyway, that's obviously not the big thing on everybody's mind. It is this election, which is 3 days away. By the way, if you were listening last week, I realized at the end of the show I was saying 9 days away, and it was actually 10. Hopefully, nobody was checking their watch or their day, doing their day adjustment on any calendar from that. Anyway, obviously, it's been a wild and woolly couple of years, and it's getting crazier as we get close. And it sure seems like those Democrats are getting crazier and crazier by the day. Nobody's going to make any predictions. I'm not making any predictions. Not something I think is smart to do, but looking good if you're on the Republican/Trump side. And the Democrats are getting crazier and more desperate by the day. Desperate people do desperate things, and they are proving that more and more. Yesterday, the news story that went around, and this is nothing new. It just gets crazier each time. Every time you think, they couldn't blatantly lie more, they couldn't have more keons to say the stuff they're saying, they top it. And they did it again yesterday. In fact, the gloves are off. It doesn't seem like they've got any self-control anymore. Not that they always did. But they're really going bananas here. And the clip that's been making the rounds, and the thing that got the media all crazy yesterday, every time they look at it, they get an opportunity to jump on it to try and take Trump down, show the world what an awful human being he is. They seize it, whether it makes sense or not. And this is the partial clip, the one that was being used by the mainstream media yesterday, that got them all riled up, or that they used to get themselves all riled up. We're going to examine that. We're going to hear some of these examples of what happened yesterday. And the reason I want to take some time on this is because this is a microcosm of what's going on with Trump the whole year, for the entire 9 years since he came down the escalator in 2015. Media at first was, as you might recall, was fascinated by him. They were all giving him all kinds of airtime, because here's this guy that's known for being a developer and a reality show host. All of a sudden, he's running for president and getting all this attention. And much to their later retrospect chagrin, they realized that they helped prop him up and give him all that free advertising and promotion. But that was 9 years ago. And as it started to become more and more clear that this wasn't a flash in the pan, that he could possibly actually get elected, the craziness began. And it's just gotten worse, Russian collusion. Oh, I'm not going to bore you with all that stuff. But this thing that happened yesterday, it's really kind of ironic. Not that it all isn't full of irony, because it is. But everything that comes from the left is fully ironic. But, what's really ironic is what they've done with this last example and just twisted it to try and, convince anybody that he is who they want them to think he is. And it's amazing to me that they still think that they're gonna shift minds with this. But what do I know? And so yesterday there was a before I get to that, let me just again kind of refresh. How did we get here in the first place? Well, recall a couple years ago, before everybody started announcing, before Trump officially announced that he was going to come back, polls started coming out, and DeSantis was up big. I mean, he was up big. Fox News was already putting him in place. They were not letting, you might recall, they didn't have Trump on air at all. He was basically persona non grata at Fox News. Not saying because of any January 6th thing. They just, and I don't know if this is being driven by Rupert Murdoch, Backlund, or group, but at one point they realized, or they thought in their mind, that DeSantis was the guy. So they were going full speed ahead with that. I was on board too. I think most of us were. And Donald Trump was just seen as kind of all right, he's going to try it again, but he doesn't have a chance. He probably won't even get close to being nominated. And things started going that direction until the lawfare started. And as soon as the first lawsuit came out and was charged, as soon as we started hearing Jack Smith's name, as soon as we started hearing about states wanting to take him off the ballot, all of a sudden his popularity started to change, started to grow again. People started looking past, I think, the other things that were originally sending them off into a tizzy and starting to look at a little bit bigger picture. And the biggest message here is that the Democrats did this to themselves. And they're still doing it to themselves. And if there is a God, this is obviously my own humble opinion, they will get what they finally deserve times 10 on Tuesday. And that's not just the presidency. It's starting to look like the Republicans could take the House, could take the Senate back, and they actually have some sort of a little cushion here. Dare I say 54, 55 seats? It could happen. I don't think they're going to lose the House. I think it'll probably stay about where it is. And of course, you might recall, Trump had the whole thing for the first 2 years before, too. But it's just different. As I talked about last week and the week before, you've got people from the left that are coming out now and aren't so afraid to say that they're going to vote for Trump, whereas, it was taboo. It was something you did. It was secret. You kept it under wraps before. Now there's people who are coming out and are saying, that they're going to vote for Trump, which, in my mind, maybe also is a bit of a flag. Maybe that means that Trump is going to overperform the polls as much as he did before, because there aren't as many people who are afraid to tell a pollster that they're going to vote for Donald Trump. But we'll see. I just don't see how anybody with any kind of fair mind, clear thinking way of seeing the world can see Kamala Harris as the person to get in the White House and run this country. Go face down Xi and Putin and all those things. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't think she does either, because she certainly hasn't put herself in any positions of vulnerability. I mean, she sort of tiptoed into it, but no, she blew off the Joe Rogan interview and all that. Anyway, so what happened yesterday was Donald Trump was on a town hall, some sort of an appearance with Tucker Carlson on stage. And they were talking about Liz Cheney and started bashing Liz Cheney, which was a whole nother discussion. Probably this year's number one idiot fool, or fool idiot, or I forget what it's called, but the useful idiot that the Democrats will use until they need her, and then they will spit her out as soon as they're done. They were talking about her, and he was making a comment. And before I get too descriptive into the context, let me play this first clip. It's clip one. This was the clip that the media was circulating yesterday and then commenting on, which we're going to play some of that as well, too. Clip one, go.
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
And that's the clip. And then the media went crazy all day basically with a narrative that Donald Trump wants to have Liz Cheney executed. Now, first of all, you and I, and we all both know, they know he didn't say that. You know, most of the stuff that they go on TV, you got to ask yourself, like I do they really believe that? Do they really? I mean, they seem intelligent in everything else they say and do. They seem fairly well-spoken and with vocabulary, and they see and interpret things for the most part, politically notwithstanding, politics notwithstanding. How can they actually believe this? How can they say this with a straight face? Well, let's play a little bit about how the media responded to that first before we clarify it. And this is a montage of the media responding to that clip and that whole thing. Clip 3, go.
I don't blame him for sticking with his.
Clip 3.
He's going after Liz Cheney with this dangerous, violent rhetoric.
And on his closing weekend, he's calling for 9 guns to be pointed at her face to execute her.
Escalating his violent rhetoric, suggesting one of his most prominent critics, the former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, should be fired upon.
If Americans return Donald Trump to the White House after those comments about our fellow American Liz Cheney, those who voted for him will get what they deserve.
It's a direct threat, not 9 barrels pointed at her, 9 barrels shooting at her.
Really, some of his supporters take these signals literally. See January 6th.
We're days out from Election Day, and former President Donald Trump is escalating his violent rhetoric, suggesting one of his most prominent critics, the former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, should be fired upon. Let's see how she feels when the guns are trained on her face. Let's sit with that for a moment. And it comes after Trump has raised the specter of using the U.S. military on Americans he calls the enemy within. This is the final battle, he says. He's talking about the election happening 4 days from now. In her closing argument of this campaign, his opponent, Kamala Harris, had this warning.
Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him.
That's where we are 4 days from Election Day in 2024.
Yes, that's where we are, where CNN and Kamala Harris knows exactly what Trump was trying to say, or what he wasn't even trying to say it. He was saying it pretty clearly. If you were there, it didn't take a lot to figure out and understand what he was saying. But no, they seized on anything they can, twisted it however they need to, and they go to town with it. It is absolutely disgusting. And then Kamala Harris herself comes out there and she seizes it and says, Donald Trump wants to have Liz Cheney executed. However, just think about this. I mean, you look at her, you know she knows it's not true. How can anybody witness this, see this going on, and actually believe that this person should be running the country? Now you understand why it's always been said, why every large dominant country in history that collapsed never did it from getting conquered, or did it from being overthrown. It's always been from within. And when Donald Trump talks about the enemy from within, another thing that the media has been seizing on, trying to convince you that if you make it known that you disagree with him, he'll be sending the militia after you, or the National Guard, or the Marines, or whatever it is that they'll need to do. It is absolutely going to collapse this country. Like I talked about before, I've got grandkids, and it scares the bejesus out of me what kind of country they're going to have if Democrats take over. If this Gen Z-driven generation has their way, this generation that has been completely tainted by academia and the media. But I see things changing there, too. I really see a lot of things changing. I feel like I'm seeing some younger people waking up and coming over to the right side. This has been a fascinating election season. I mean, the entire party makeup of both parties has been completely shifted around. Democrats, which were the party of the middle class, they were the poster child of the protectors of the middle class, really starting, I think, during Barack Obama's administration. It's kind of where it started. It's where they really started to abandon the middle class and concentrate, on the quote unquote marginalized community. All well and good, But you put all your eggs in that one basket, well, look what happens. The Republican Party, and it's almost hard to believe I'm saying this, has really become the party of the middle class. Yep. Come party, and come on over, because they're waking up, they're realizing, you know what, this is not the Republican Party of old. This is not the, the party that clings to guns and religion like Barack Obama wanted us to believe when he started this whole division thing. And I do believe, by the way, that the division that we are experiencing today started right there. You see what a better country we were when you look at movies from the 70s and the 80s, like Airplane and Blazing Saddles, and we were able to tease each other and make fun of each other. I'm Jewish, and there's all kinds of Jewish jokes I'll laugh at. I mean, we were able to tease each other because we're not, homogenous. We have all kinds of cultures that we interact with, and we don't want to lose those people. We should embrace everybody's different culture, but we're all Americans. And I think that the division that we have now, this Civil War level division, really started with Barack Obama, with comments like that, with if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Martin, perpetuating the hands up, don't shoot. And again, not that those weren't noble thoughts, but at the end of the day, you don't want to start charging or pointing fingers unless you know somebody's guilty. And in all those cases, he started coming out and taking sides as soon as it was a news story, not once we started to hear or gave a chance to hear any evidence come out. So we can talk about that for hours and hours and hours. Here's the clip of what he actually said. Okay. Now, just to give a quick explanation, he was talking about Liz Cheney, and he was talking about the old neocons, the old Republicans, and that's something else we're going to talk about here. Is we may get to it today. If not, it'll be next week. We're going to talk about the difference between the old Republican Party and the new Republican Party. And, I know so many Democrats, I wish the old Republican Party would come back. Really? I'm glad to see him going. Good riddance. Good luck. Stay away. The neocons, who were very war hawkish, and nobody was more hawkish than her dad, than Liz Cheney's dad. And by the way, as you might recall, Dick Cheney was the vice president at the time. This is when all the ridiculous wars that we got into started. And nobody's more hawkish than the Cheneys. And all he was saying was, listen, she'll turn around and send somebody to war in 2 seconds. She'll send thousands of troops into the mouth of the enemy while she's sitting up in her cushy office in Washington or wherever she is. But if the guns were trained on her and she had to do it, she probably wouldn't be so quick to pull the trigger and send. Get this country. Oh. Oh, clip 2. Are we playing clip 2?
I don't blame him for sticking with his daughter, but his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people.
And that's pretty easy to understand. That's pretty plain. Not that you have to really hear it to understand, to realize that Donald Trump would not be saying that anybody should execute Liz Cheney. Donald Trump never said he's going to use the military on anybody for any reason in this country. I mean, the stuff that they say, again, I just refuse to believe that they actually believe it, that they're that out of it, trying to be politically correct. But they still go with it. And when you see how desperate they're getting with this thing, and how much they're still pushing it. I heard this morning somebody talking about it on another station, on one of the cable stations, like it's real. And after the break, which comes up in a few minutes, in the second half, I'm going to play another couple examples of just regular mainstream media and how they're approaching this. Because, most of us who really pay attention, we watch mostly the cable news channels or these podcasts. I happen to love Megyn Kelly, for one. I like Matt Walsh. He's probably the most intense in terms of being on the right, but I like him, and I don't agree with everything they all say, but I like it. There's a bunch of podcasters. But they're going off the deep end, and I think they're just. That's why I got to tell you, assuming this election goes the way I think it's going to go, Tuesday night, MSNBC and CNN are going to be must-see TV. If you think the meltdowns in 2016 were entertaining, I think those are going to be like the trailer compared to what this will be. I also have another prediction. And like I said, I'm not bouncing all over the place. After the break, we're going to get back and examine this a little bit. We're also going to talk a little bit about what it looks like they're going to try and do, even if he gets elected between Election Day and Inauguration Day. So it's craziness is going to continue. Here's one more example, real quick, of the media going crazy. Oh, you know what? We're going to come back and play it afterwards. Here's Kamala Harris. She got off a plane. She was in between stops. This is yesterday. Somebody asked her about it. And this is about her third or fourth time responding to it. And at this point, anybody who wanted to know what really happened knew. And yet, here's what Kamala told a bunch of reporters on the tarmac. Clip number 5.
He has increased his violent rhetoric. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
She's saying he's disqualified and unqualified to be president after saying that he uses violent rhetoric in response to that? It's hard for me to believe how anybody other than a hard ideological lefty can actually hear these things and believe them. I know a lot of people on the left, they believe whatever they want to believe. You can put a duck in front of them and they'll see it and they'll say, no, it's a cat or it's a car. If it's not what they want it to be, if it doesn't go with their narrative, it's not to be. Reality and the left, people on the left do not make good bedfellows. Happens to be. And when you hear again, this is the president, the nominee for president of a major party. It's hard to believe. Hard to believe. Anyway, I think at the end of the day, it's the mainstream media monster is in overdrive. And between now and we got 3 days left, and I can just imagine what's going to happen between now and then. I've been waiting for the October surprise, although. You got to know that it can't be. What's there left? I mean, after 9 years and digging everything else, I was worried that they were going to do something AI wise. But you know what? Again, desperate people do desperate things. And by the sound of the music, that means we are coming to our break at the bottom of the hour. Coming back after this, we're going to finish up talking about this a little bit. I don't mean to beat it too much to death, but I think it's pretty telling as to what we're up against. I think it's a good review as to why things are going in the direction they look like they're going. This is AM 1410 WRMN. It's the Jeff Michaels Show, and we're going to be back after this.
And don't forget, WRMN is going to be live from Hampshire starting next hour. 2 until 4 this afternoon. Join Dino and Matt from Holiday on State Street. That coverage begins right after the 2 o'clock top of the hour news. Right here on WRMN. More of Jeff Michaels on the way in just a couple of moments.
Election Day is here, and WRMN 1410 is your trusted source for the facts. Federal races, county board seats, local offices, and advisory questions. We've got all the information you need. Have a question? What's on your ballot? Call 847-931-1410 or text 505-926-1410. We'll give you clear, unbiased information about any candidate or issue on the Kane County ballot. Just the facts, no spin. Stay informed with WRMN 1410, the talk of the town, your source for reliable coverage all day long. Call 847-931-1410 or text 505-926-1410. Your vote matters. Let's make it count together. Election day is here, and WRMN 1410 is your trusted source for the facts. Federal races, county board seats, local offices, and advisory questions. We've got all the information you need. Have a question? What's on your ballot? Call 847-931-1410 or text 505-926-1410. We'll give you clear, unbiased information about any candidate or issue on the Kane County ballot. Just the facts, no spin. Stay informed with WRMN 1410, the talk of the town, your source for reliable coverage all day long. Call 847-931-1410 or text 505-926-1410. Your vote matters. Let's make it count together.
Are you looking for a dentist near you? Choose the one with the 5-star Google rating, Bender Dental Care in Elgin. We earned that 5-star rating with our super friendly staff, reasonable rates, and outstanding patient care. Dr. Bender provides full-service family dentistry, including tooth-colored fillings and crowns, and no drill, no shot treatment for small cavities, perfect for kids. Choose Google's 5-star dentist close to home, Bender Dental Care in Elgin. We're here for you.
Come see the only train-themed restaurant where all the seating is on the tracks. Two Toots Train Whistle Grill on Main Street in both Bartlett and Glen Ellen is always fun and always fresh. Two Toots Train Whistle Grill serves 100% grass-fed beef hot dogs and burgers. There's also chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, and more, all loaded up on 2 Lionel O-scale trains and delivered directly to your seat. No one sits away from the fun, regardless of age. When a train arrives delivering your food, you'll smile ear to ear. Visit twotoots.com.
From morning coffee to your evening commute, WRMN 1410 AM is here for you. The faithful friend that brings you local news, timely topics, and the friendliest voices in the Valley. Stay informed, entertained, and engaged with our full lineup of shows, streaming all day, every day at WRMN1410.com or on the WRMN app. Wherever you are, we're right there with you. So why switch stations? Stick with the one that has it all. WRMN 1410 AM, your daily companion, your constant conversation.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-234-0316. 800-234-0316. That's 800-234-0316.
At the Jeff Michaels Show, we get up every day focused on one thing: saving our country from the lunatic left. Time's a-wastin'.
It sure is. This is AM 1410, WRMN, the talk of Lake County. It's Jeff Michaels and the Jeff Michaels Show. 847-931-1410. That's the phone number. You got anything you want to talk about, do not hesitate to buzz me up. 847-931-1410. If you're calling from anywhere outside the United States, the country code is 1. And don't forget to push the plus sign before. That's something I've always wondered about, by the way. I guess because we had phones first, I don't know, but our country code has always been 1. I wonder if, over the last few years, as the United States has become the enemy of so many parts of the world, why there hasn't been a push out there to make us have a different country code. It's like, you ever notice when the whole digital thing started and you had to put in an address for a long time, United States would come up first, then everything else. And then now, usually you got to go all the way down to the end to find United States. I think they're being PC, even though 99.99% of the people who are doing it will be going to, say, United States and click that. But no, we got to go all the way down. Anyway, welcome back. It's 1:35 at AM 1410 WRMN, talking about the media meltdown as they're getting crazier and crazier as we get so close to the election. One more clip here we're going to run. This is the media melting down yesterday, trying to spread the horrible rumor that Donald Trump is calling for the execution of all of his enemies, and in this case, first and foremost, Liz Cheney. Clip 3 or 4, whatever it was. Go.
It's unconscionable.
What is this message?
It's unconscionable. I don't know how Republican leaders, many of whom served with Liz Cheney and at one point considered her a colleague and friends, cannot denounce this. It is dangerous. It's escalatory. He's also already called for tribunals against her when he's back as president. It is so unpresidential, reckless, and dangerous, and it needs to be universally condemned.
You heard the vice president talk exactly about things like this on Tuesday night in her closing argument. Donald Trump is so all consumed by his grievances. The people who he disagrees with and who he sees as opposing him politically, he treats as enemies. He spent the last month talking about the enemy from within the United States, and now he's going after Liz Cheney with this dangerous, violent rhetoric. I mean, think about the contrast between these two candidates. You have Donald Trump, who's talking about sending a prominent Republican to the firing squad, and you have Vice President Harris talking about sending one to her cabinet.
I don't think you even need to call it fired upon. He's saying quite explicitly and unambiguously that Liz Cheney should be shot, should be executed by firing squad.
Your reaction to what Donald Trump said about Liz Cheney?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it was completely inappropriate, dangerous, and unbecoming of a leader. Mr. Trump was literally going after someone who doesn't agree with him. So it shouldn't be a surprise when people come on TV and feel the need to agree with him.
When he says 9 barrels shooting at her, that obviously evokes images of a firing squad. It evokes images of an execution.
Let's execute a political opponent who happens to be a woman, because I don't like her.
It's a woman thing now, too.
Like, does that pull more low propensity voters in his coalition to the polls? I honestly don't think so.
Low propensity voters? You mean dumb, hick, MAGA voters? Is that what you mean to say? And by the way, it's on, not that Twitter wasn't always off the charts crazy, but it's getting, X. Which, by the way, I got to tell you, I'm going to digress for 2 seconds. The reason I think that was a big mistake for him to call it X, change it, I understand why. He wanted to get away from the whole Twitter being left. But Twitter had achieved a point of where the word Twitter was also a noun. So now to tweet is something specific. Twitter, tweet, kind of like Kleenex has become a generic for all kinds of tissue paper. It had achieved that. Now, I'm not making an X. So I think they've lost what was a major marketing tool, but that's another discussion. Twitter's been going crazy and even, more off the wall with their accusations and their panic about Donald Trump becoming president. And one of the things which we heard a lot in that last clip was this whole notion that he's going to go after his enemies now, and he's threatened to take them down. Well, I remind you of a couple things. Hillary Clinton, who had absolutely every possible reason to be charged, she absolutely, there was evidence. This was not even a question. Even though he threatened to go after her, he didn't do it. Didn't even lift a finger or say anything about it, because he didn't see the value, the American people, in resurrecting all of that craziness. This is a different story. It's not about going after your opponents. And so I'm not saying he should now go after Hillary Clinton and go back, in spite of the fact that the fact that she didn't get arrested completely contradicts one of the lawsuits against him, but that's also for another discussion. He really has to go after this lawfare that went after him. Whether you like Trump or hate Trump, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're really an American and you really love this country and you've got any sense of pride and intelligence, you know that this can't continue, that law, that you can't It cannot now be established that you can get away with, when you're in power, utilizing the justice system to go after your opponent. And if he doesn't do anything, they still get away with it. Now, they didn't, because they tried everything under the sun, and it looks like he's going to get elected in spite of it all. But I just don't know how he doesn't go after it. Now, the first thing he's got to do, obviously, is he's got to go after these assassination attempts, and find out what happened with that. Because it doesn't make sense that in both cases, especially the first one, they've kind of died away. We still don't know what crooks, that was the first attempted assassin. We still don't know what his motivation was, what his connections were. I don't know if they got into his phone. Maybe they did, but we don't really know at the end of the day much about either of these guys. And you would think that it would be pouring out. I mean, by now, when we've heard about any mass shooting where the mass shooter is a white male that they can take off on, we hear about all that within 2 seconds and constantly for the next 2 weeks or whatever. So that's the first thing they got to go after. But they've got to go after these other, Allen Bragg. And, I mean, it just becomes so obvious. The number 3 guy at the DOJ resigns and joins the Manhattan DA's office just in time to be part of the lawsuit, the porno star lawsuit, the hush money lawsuit. I mean, every one of these things, if you didn't live through them, you wouldn't believe it. You couldn't believe it. It would be impossible to believe. But it is. So we'll see. And then, assuming Donald Trump is elected, assuming he's elected, they're already trying to figure out what they can do between Election Day and Inauguration Day. Jamie Raskin has been recorded saying what their game plan is. We're going to play that in a little bit as well. So the fun is going to continue. But I really do believe after he gets reelected, I think there's a period of time where this is going to die down. I mean, first of all, they realize he can't get reelected again. So, he's not going to run again. And so that, bat will be taken out of their hand. But I got to think at some point they're going to say, okay, they're going to give it up and realize we tried everything under the sun. It didn't work. This guy still got reelected. And if we step back and we try to use even a modicum of common sense, we see that he says a lot of goofy things and he goes off and he doesn't have a filter. But his heart's in the right place. He seems to have the right motivation. And I have no doubt that he loves this country. And at this point, his mission for the rest of his life is to do whatever he can to try and save it from being overrun by the craziness of the left. And when I say craziness, I am not exaggerating. And it's getting more and more crazy. And by the way, this is nothing new in history. It's just new in our history at this point. Anyway, we're going to take a break now. Coming back after this, we're going to finish up on this discussion, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what the Democrats are planning to do in case he gets elected, and what we think America will likely start to be after this inauguration. I wonder if the lady that everybody saw on the internet, the one that was, the girl was sitting on her knees screaming as he was getting inaugurated in 2016. I wonder what the follow-up to that's going to be. Who knows? Anyway, we're going to be back in a flash. It's AM 1410 WRMN.
If you're in charge of purchasing coring bits or diamond tooling for an engineering or construction firm, you're going to want to hear this. 4Core Biz delivers a critical missing component in the market. Our team of trained experts will make sure that you receive a full valuation of your actual coring needs to ensure that you're getting the optimum performance out of all your core bits and machines. A cheap core bit is just that, cheap. It costs less but bores far less holes and costs more per hole. Our bits cost a little more but bore you a whole lot more holes. 4 times more. Give us a shot and we'll send you your bits before you pay us a dime. 4Core Biz. Visit us at 4corebiz.com. That's the number 4, COREBIZ.com. Or call 888-831-9557. 4Core Biz.
Be sure to catch the first shift weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. for important information like fire tips from Elgin Fire Chief Rob Sagan.
The thing in the winter that we're more concerned with is carbon monoxide, because that we don't get in the summer. That carbon monoxide issues occur because of heating equipment. Anything that burns natural gas, if it is faulty, can generate high levels of carbon monoxide, which in time can be fatal. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of having carbon monoxide detectors in your home. Every single year you will see somewhere in the country, and usually we'll get one or two in the Chicagoland area, where you'll see multiple fatalities in one home. You can't smell carbon monoxide, you can't taste carbon monoxide, you have no idea it's happening. And so it's critically important that you have the right detectors in your home.
It's the first shift weekday mornings at 6 a.m. with me, Marky B, right here on WRMN. If you can't decide on dinner, have everything. Golden Corral at 154 South Gary Avenue in Bloomingdale has an endless buffet with over 150 items to choose from. There's an unmatched variety of food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, prepared fresh throughout the day. If you're craving something specific, call or check out their menu. Golden Corral rotates the buffet often. Golden Corral in Bloomingdale. They're the only one for everyone. Visit goldencorral.com. Theriault Booth, a leading local law firm, is located on the beautiful Fox River in downtown St. Charles. Here's Ryan Theriault.
For better or worse, there are just times people need a lawyer. Whether you are involved in a work injury, in an automobile crash, selling a home, or even planning for your estate after your passing, we're here. We're local. We're part of the community.
For more information, visit them on the web at tbfirm.com or give them a call at 630-526-4242.
Only common sense and logic is allowed. Wisdom is a bonus. It's Jeff Michaels on 1410 WRMN.
Talking about the craziness of the lunatic left and what they're doing right now in their last-ditch effort to try and keep Donald Trump from regaining the White House. And, obviously one of the discussions we all have over all this over the last few years is, was the 2020 election stolen? And here's my response to that and how it dovetails to all of this. Was it officially stolen? No, it was not official. It was not, the lawsuits were able to be borne out. We have all kinds of evidence of things happening, as we have been seeing over the last couple of weeks, like in Michigan and Wisconsin as well. And I think Georgia too, something popped up. But the good news is they don't have nearly the opportunities to cheat that they did because of COVID, which had all these 24-hour unmanaged lock boxes everywhere and all the rest. Most of those are gone, not all, but most. So I don't think there's as much. But here's really the response to that. Officially, no. It was not stolen. Biden won the election. But here's the response to that. Or here's the one fact related to that. We know, as sure as we know that it's Sunday and the last day of daylight savings time, that there are lots and lots of people on the left who think that Donald Trump, whether because of their own thought or the media narrative or all the above, who really believe in their heart of hearts that Donald Trump is a Nazi and is the most awful thing that could possibly have ever happened to this country. And to anything that could possibly be done to keep him from office is justified and okay. I mean, think about it. If you had Hitler and you're back in the 40s, you know all about what was going on. You thought there was a chance to keep him from being president, wouldn't you think it would be the right thing to do? I would. And so we know that a lot of the left in their mind, so they sit in there and they get, they get a gas at the suggestion that the election was stolen. How dare you intimate that they would do that? Really? Well, yeah, we don't know that it was stolen, so there's nothing official, but we sure know that there's a lot of people out there who would be happy to steal it and would do it in a heartbeat if they thought they could get away with it. So how do you not come to that conclusion? Anyway, adding to that, Jamie Raskin, and I'm going to get back to it in a second. Jamie Raskin, we'll talk about in a minute. One more example of the media, because this is from CBS 24/7. This is from yesterday afternoon. And this is more, it's one thing to get your information from podcasts. It's another thing to understand what regular mainstream media communicates. And this is, channels, to CBS, NBC, ABC, and so on, when they're talking to the quote unquote average person that's not so politically focused. And they're talking supposedly more in a non-biased tone. Well, this is CBS 24/7. This is their news service. This is from yesterday, talking about this whole Trump-Liz Cheney thing. Clip 6, go.
Let's begin with the final push for both presidential campaigns. Former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris have just 4 more days to shore up support from undecided voters before Election Day. Trump's rally strategy has been to hurl insults at Harris and her campaign surrogates. Yesterday, during a fireside chat with Tucker Carlson, he used violent language and imagery, suggesting former GOP Congresswoman Liz Cheney should have guns pointed at her face. Listen.
His daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
All right, let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Jake Rosen. He's joining me now from our bureau in Washington. Jake, you've covered the Trump campaign for some time now. We know that the president uses rhetoric, oftentimes childish, sometimes rhetoric that is dangerous. In this case, a former president of the United States suggesting that guns should be trained at the face of a woman who simply just disagrees with him politically. What's the reaction from Trump's camp on this attack on Liz Cheney?
Well, the Trump campaign has tried to make clear in kind of cleaning up this comment that it was in reference to Liz Cheney's policies on past U.S. wars and her general foreign affairs and foreign policy views. Obviously, that being said, he was still suggesting that 9 guns be pointed in her face, especially in the political climate that former Representative Cheney had to deal with for a long time, as she was on that January 6th committee where a lot of those members were facing constant threats. And the Harris campaign has clung on to this as well. A spokesperson for the campaign saying that this is a reference to firing squads, in addition to Liz Cheney herself saying that this is the language of dictators, and that, again, reaffirming her support for Vice President Harris.
Oh, my God. He wants to have us all killed. Now, think about this, too. These are just a couple of reporters talking about things in more of a mainstream, regular way, not supposedly biased, making that kind of presentation. Giving you just the facts. The Trump campaign had to clean it up. They had to clean up the rhetoric. Is that disgusting or what? Anyway, we've beaten this thing to death. Hopefully, it's the last time we'll have to deal with it. It won't be, but hopefully it'll be a different situation next time. Anyway, about 2 months ago, Jamie Raskin was having some kind of a discussion at, I believe it was a bookstore in Washington, D.C. Video. Started talking about what happens if he's elected. What do they do at that point? He wasn't mincing any words by saying, no, you know what, we'll just, we know that he was an insurrectionist, and Article 14, or the 14th Amendment, says that an insurrectionist cannot be president. So knowing that, we'll just do what we have to do. It's not what we want to do, it's what we have to do. Clip 7, go.
And then it's not until the Warren Court for a couple of decades with the white primary cases and Brown versus Board where you get a different kind of Supreme Court on the side of the freedoms and equality of the American people. But the court is not going to save us. And so that means the only thing that really works is people in motion, amending the Constitution. But again, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient, because what can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified, and then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that back to life, even as we're continuing to amend the Constitution, as Professor Hassan has invited us to do.
They don't want to do their job of realizing that Donald Trump is not fit to be president, and they should figure any way out possible that they can to keep him from getting there. If anybody told you about all this stuff, say 20 years ago, you believe it? Wouldn't you just think it sounds like kind of like a movie or something? Like a nightmare. But at the end of the day, you like to believe that the right thing, that right will always work out at the end. And, it doesn't always work out that way. We see what's going on in the Middle East. What's going on in Ukraine, which, by the way, is another situation. Doesn't it seem like in Ukraine? I mean, it becomes obvious. We're sitting there right now. It's just gonna sit and bubble like this forever. Nobody's gonna win. Nobody's gonna lose. People will keep dying, and it's just gonna tread water. It's just gonna keep dog paddling until somebody does something. Biden is certainly not really doing anything. Kamala Harris doesn't know what to do. I don't think she knows what to do beyond starting her car. But I got a funny feeling that Donald Trump will be able to figure out what to do. And it's probably not going to end up being something that everybody will be happy with. But I would guess it'll end up being something, or I'm sure it'll end up being something that everybody will understand in their heart of hearts is the right thing to do. So if you haven't voted, please make sure you do, whoever you're voting for. And we're all going to be, I've been waiting for Tuesday night for a year. But now in the last month or so, last couple of months, as it's been looking the last month or so, as it's starting to look more and more like he's going to win this thing, this might end up being the second night in history on a election night that I end up staying up all night. The last time was in 2000, when every state but Florida was called by about midnight. Florida, they couldn't figure out for about 4 days. Next day, you didn't know who won. I had a feeling this one's going to be like that too, but we will see. Anyway, another hour has just flown by again. Thank you so much for spending it with me. It's the Jeff Michaels Show. I'll be back again next Saturday, same time, same station. It'll be daylight savings time will be gone. It'll be winter time, but we'll still be light out now. So that's a good thing. Have a great week. Don't forget to vote. And we'll see you again at AM 1410, WRMN, the talk of the Fox Valley.
Stay tuned. We'll be live from Hampshire in just a few moments as Dino and Matt are going to talk about Holiday on State Street, live from Hampshire, and it's on the way in just a few minutes, so keep it right here this afternoon on WRMN. And join me, Marky B, for the first shift Monday morning starting at 6.
Looking to stay informed on the political issues that truly